Okay, welcome everybody. I'm going to get started a minute earlier. If you heard that, that was Craig. Craig is the channel's bot. What he does is basically records the session so that if anyone missed anything during the session, Craig will pick up on it. If you just telling you kind of ahead of time about that. So in today's Discord live session, we'll be talking about nutrition without a nutritionist, 10 years of my experience with nutrition and everything that I've done, found out, figured out along the way. And then if someone joins, I will give you the opportunity to take the floor, take over, ask any questions. Also, feel free just to jump right in to the conversation and interrupt. That's basically what this is. It's just for everybody to kind of, um, I would say, like a community for everybody to get to know each other, but also share your ideas and thoughts and bounce them off of other people. So I'll get started here first and share my experience with all of this. So first and foremost, how I started, my I would say, like, not nutrition journey, but how I really got into tracking my food, weighing it out, and being mindful and cognizant of what was going into my body. And that really started, I would say, around high school for me, maybe even a little bit before that, like middle schoolish, just before I got to high school. I had a babysitter named Savannah. I won't say her last name, but she was very influential, honestly, with me in that respect because she drove me away from eating junk food during the summer. So it's like very easy in the summer for you to enjoy more sweet treats. Ice cream is a huge thing in the summer, right? It cools everybody down. It feels like there's ice cream everywhere during the summer. All the shops are open. So it wasn't really so much an ice cream problem as it was just like I like sweets in general. But when I was younger, I was a little bit chunkier and I was often made fun of because of that. I was told by my high school nurse that I was in the quote unquote red zone, which means I'm overweight. Now, my mom wasn't really a problem there. Like, yeah, I would have snacks here and there. Um, but like she never really bought me that much fast food or anything like that, and I had home cooked meals all the time. So Savannah, she got me started tracking my food because what we would do is we found some like online calorie thing. This was way before like anybody had MyFitnessPal or anything like that. I think I was probably maybe like 10, 12 years old or something at this point. And every time I would eat something with her, we would like put it in this little tracker thing, see how many calories it was, not so much like fats, carbs, so like not the full macro profile breakdown, but just basically the amount of calories that I was eating. And so whatever I ate, we basically had to do not really exercise, but like some kind of a sport or some kind of activity to burn it off. A lot of times we would go hiking, sometimes we just kind of walked, other times, we would play a sport or just like go outside and do something. So she really, I would say, got me started with that. And during high school, so after that, I started making my own lunches and my own food to take to school for lunch with me. So my mom would cook dinner and I was kind of responsible for making my own lunches. So I remember like one time I brought those chocolate covered almonds that I still eat to lunch with me. And I brought a giant box. I wasn't gonna eat the whole thing. I got it from Price Chopper, which is like a food store near me. But the reason why I brought the whole thing was just because like that was gonna be a majority of what I was eating that day, and then like a small sandwich or whatever else. So it was kind of like a small snack that I had with my regular like lunch sandwich or whatever I had. So everybody around the table wanted those almonds, and everybody kind of grabbed some for themselves. And then at the end of lunch, I had like no almonds left. It kind of sucked, but it was a good thing because I was able to spread my awareness or like passion at that point, maybe you could say, for food with other people. And obviously, just like music, you can bond over food too. Food is part of every single culture, and every single culture has their own food and cuisine that's unique to them. So, like, we have the American diet, right? Hamburgers, French fries, stuff like that. But then you have like the Mexican cuisine, you have Italian, you have Ethiopian, all these other different ones. with all different kinds of unique flavor profiles. So that's kind of what me and Savannah did. And then from there, just because she gave me that framework, I built upon that and just kept doing it. And then as well, like the one time that I got started in high school on sort of taking the approach of going to the gym rather than the gym class. So I took a strength training class in place of gym. Um, at that point, I was asking the teacher of that class, like, what should I eat before, after a session like this so that I'm not wasting what I'm doing in the gym. I'm getting the most out of it and I'm able to keep the muscle on. And he would tell me different food suggestions. So he said like certain fruits and stuff. So I would literally take food with me to the gym, like a banana or something like that to eat after, whatever his recommendation was. I would tell my mom like I wanted to go to the store, whatever, get those things, and then I would bring them to the locker room with me so I could eat it right after. So I'd be like walking down the hall to like the next class or something, and then I would be eating like peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something as I'm walking. But hey, that's what I was doing at that point. And then I just started, making my own food. So I started out very basic and I got this idea from Sadiq Kadzovic, the first bodybuilder I ever followed and started watching. He was very big on tilapia for his bodybuilding diet when he was on prep. So I would have tilapia with rice and asparagus, and then in a different container, I would have chicken, rice, and like potatoes and a vegetable. So that's basically what I was eating to start out. I still have those pictures, and on the last reel I posted, I put a couple images of stuff that I was making at that point. So I had, I think, like a thing full of oranges that I cut up, and then a like pasta cucumber-ish salad. So I would make stuff like that. And what I would do was on Saturdays when my mom was at work, I would take the morning to cook up all my food. So I would cook the fish, I would cook the chicken, the rice, and the asparagus, put them all into prep containers, put them in the fridge so I could just grab them and go. And then whatever she made for dinner that night, which I credit my mom to the chicken, broccoli, and rice because a lot of times that's what we'd have for dinner, some variation of chicken, just plain white rice, and then always a vegetable or even like a side salad. So I was eating chicken, broccoli, and rice, I would say, before it was even cool to eat chicken, broccoli, and rice, but that's what I would eat for dinner. And like I said, always had like home cooked meals. So that's how I got started with that, and then it carried all the way through to college. I actually had to have a meal plan my first year of college, which I didn't like. It was a mandatory meal plan, and I just honestly ended up eating the salad bar and like French fries basically for like a carb source. And then there was this little smoothie bar that was on campus, so I would get a smoothie pretty much every day. It was like a fruit smoothie. It was really good. I'm not sure if it's still there or not, but it was super, super delish. So I would eat like a lot of health food like that. And then sort of like during college, I packed on a couple pounds because like everybody, I fell prey to that freshman 15, although it wasn't freshman 15, it was like sophomore 15 for me. I just was like still kind of on the school's meal plan and I would get like hamburgers and fries and stuff. And then I was also eating like a lot of packaged things. So those Kraft packets of mac and cheese that you can put in the microwave, I ate a lot of those just out of convenience sake, and also like beer battered fish fillets from it's like the Gordon's brand or something is what I was eating. So a lot of stuff like that, tartar sauce, very fattening. It's fried stuff, so it's gonna pack on the weight. It's filled with a load of calories as well, so it's not very good stuff. And then I was also drinking beer during college at the time, and still trying to weight lift and on top of eating bad. And then I realized that if I wanted to do this for the long run, I can't do that. Like I need to go back to eating the clean stuff that I started eating when I first started in high school. So I ditched the alcohol basically, um, and then just went back to eating like a lot of salads, a lot of vegetables, stuff like that. But at that point, the mistake that I was making was the fact that I wasn't tracking anything like I was with Savannah. I still was tracking like my calories, but I didn't have a set amount of calories. I was just basically going off of the fact like whatever I eat, I need to burn off. So being cognizant of like, oh, this has 300 calories, so I need to do something that burns that. But I don't really know how accurate that was because whatever thing I was using, to track my calories and stuff, I don't like I'm not sure how accurate that was. Is to say to put it in the most simplest terms. So that's kind of where I was going with that, and then just making sure that I was eating like fruits and vegetables every single day, and also like meats and some kind of like carb or whatever to keep me full. So basically, the food pyramid is what I was basing my diet off of after that little hiatus from everything and the little bad fried food point in college. So pretty much like by the time I was a junior and senior year came around, I was back to eating my normal meals. So like chicken, vegetables, sometimes sausage, peppers, and rice. My mom also made that a lot for me. It was one of our signature dishes, or we would have like chicken, peppers, onions, and rice, and then put like a little bit of sour cream and cheese in it and have like a bowl like that. Sometimes even put that in a wrap of some kind, like a tortilla wrap. So just different things like that. Always a vegetable though, and always some kind of like everything from the food pyramid basically to fill my plate. And then also what I learned in school was if you take your plate, you kind of make it into fourths and then you put like vegetables, carbs, meat, and fats. So I tried doing that, but what I realized with that was the more vegetables I ate and the less carbs I ate, I didn't have as much energy. So I started eating things like Cheerios. I would bring them to my class in like a little red solo cup. So instead of the beer stuff in a solo cup, I was doing Cheerios and just taking things with me like that, like little kind of carb sources, even maybe like a stick of cheese or something like that, just to eat between my classes to keep my metabolism going, and just overall get some extra carbs in me. And another mistake that I will say I was making during college is I was doing 6 a.m. workout sessions at that point. So, like I said, through all 10 of my years so far, I've always been one to kind of go to the gym in the morning, also during like the wee hours of the morning, so like 4, 5, or 6. I don't know why, just what I do. Um, Sometimes not always. Like the weekends here is a little different. I usually go about like 8 or 9 now, but I still kind of stick to that routine of doing the early morning workouts. I just like to start my day out that way. The mistake that I was also making at that point was I wasn't properly fueling before my workouts. I used to eat a banana before my workouts and nothing else. Like literally starting out in the gym, that's what I would have. And what I realized was I would burn out so quickly, it wasn't even funny. I was like, this is just not enough. Like, I need to eat something else. And I was kind of confused on what to eat before my workouts. So I kind of was just eating like a regular breakfast, like maybe I had eggs or something, but it wasn't really specific like it is now. I wasn't being intentional about it, and I wasn't actually really thinking about what I was eating. So long as I was eating something from each of the food groups that are on the food pyramid every day, basically, I thought I was doing okay. And then just keeping with like the difference between like calories that I'm eating versus calories that I'm burning. So calories in versus calories out. So all that to say, like as long as I was burning off what I was eating, then I would basically stay in a deficit to um to like lose weight and fat. And something that I was doing correctly though was I would take a lot of walks around my campus. So usually kind of like at night because it was all lit up and looked very nice and obviously it's safe, it's a campus. There was always like security around and stuff like that, public safety. So I felt safe enough to do that. And I would also kind of like obviously walk to classes. So I went to school in Ithaca. They say Ithaca is gorgeous, but it's also stairs. So that was true for this campus. There was a lot of stairs. So I was constantly walking to and from classes. And a lot of times I would like have to walk quite a bit of distance just to get there. So the walking kind of helped me stay in that calorie deficit and burn my food off as well. But yeah, the biggest mistakes for me was not fueling properly, not really keeping track of the full macro profile, and then also just not being intentional with my meals and my food and not eating enough carbs, which brings me to my next point. the carbs conversation. So that's something that I would say I made the mistake of very early on, was thinking that carbs are the enemy, because carbs are not the enemy. Turns out, if you didn't know this, newsflash, carbs are actually good for you, especially when you are trying to go for a PR, or maybe you're like an endurance athlete or something like that, like someone who does a lot of cycling or running. That's basically what your body's going to run off of. It's going to be your jet fuel to get through those tough sessions. And that's a huge mistake that I was making. I was kind of one of those people who maybe didn't know at the time, or was like misinformed, that carbs are your best fuel source when it comes to heavy lifts and stuff like that. So I wasn't eating a lot of that. I was eating more fruits and more vegetables and stuff like that in place of carbs. So basically, yeah, like I still eat a lot of vegetables now, but I also fold carbs in with it. And probably, yeah, definitely more so than I did at that point. So I was thinking, like, why can't, like, I know I was eating French fries slash potatoes at the beginning of my freshman year of college, but I was just like, okay, well, I just need something else to kind of fill me up. That's kind of the mentality that I had. Whereas now it's like, well, I need carbs, one, to fill me up, but two, so I can push through this. So it's just like the mindset shift there. Jeez, I can't tell. So then that brings me to, like, yeah, senior year, I started becoming more cognizant of that. I was eating more carbs, like potatoes. I was eating more rice, kind of just anything that I thought would have more substance to it. So instead of just having like a food from all the food groups, maybe I have a few more potatoes, a few more like grams of rice or whatever. But I still wasn't really tracking anything as far as weighing out my food. But I did realize, after that whole little hiatus thing, that I needed more carbs. And I actually will say one thing is that I did started folding pasta more into my diet, because I figured, well, mac and cheese is fattening. It's got the cheese, it's got the milk. It's just really, it's anything really creamy based isn't going to be that healthy for you. It's just going to have a lot of fat and extra carbs and calories. So I kind of cut the cheesy stuff out, but kept the pasta and was doing like whole wheat pastas and kind of just anything that basically wasn't a mac and cheese. So even just like a small bowl of pasta with a little bit of like brown sauce or something like that for dinner, with like a side salad, or even just making pasta and putting a tiny bit of butter in it, and just eating it that way, or even adding garlic to it, so like a garlic butter sauce, and then maybe throwing some broccoli in it or something like that. Something simple but still carb based. So yes, I would say more so pasta than potatoes, but if I had to say like what my main two carb sources were, it would be the pasta, and then also like the Cheerio cereal, and also rice. So as I went on, I would say maybe that's like 3 or 4 years in, not totally sure, or yeah, probably 4 years in at that point. That's when I started to realize that carbs were not the enemy. Then I've always like had this, I should have said this in the beginning, but Savannah taught me how to read labels. So when we were going through things, she would, and also like I learned that in high school and stuff like that in health classes, but she reinforced that like you need to read the label. Like if it has more than however many ingredients, it's probably not good for you. And just kind of telling me like you have to look for the calories, the carbs, and all that stuff. So when I was in college, I really started reading labels more. I had access to a lot more food too, because and different kinds. Because I had a Wegmans. I don't know if you've ever been to a Wegmans, but Wegmans is like the equivalent of a Publix. So I hear there's like a lot of Publix in the South, but more Wegmans in the North. But I think Wegmans is expanding now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just like a huge store, and it has basically everything you can think of. They have an international food aisle. They have like a bakery in there where they make like really good chocolate chip cookies that I used to get every now and then in college. They have like bagels, just like anything you can think of, cheesecakes, cakes. You can get even like specialty cakes. They've got breads, all kinds of stuff like that. They have just way more options. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's worth it because it's very good quality food, very high quality stuff. So food is something my mom says this too. you can't really skimp on food. Like sometimes there's things that yeah, the off-brand will be better, but when it comes to like Wegman stuff, their produce is just like top notch and very high quality. So I really actually miss having a Wegmans around, even though it was expensive, but you could literally get everything you needed all in one shot. You didn't have to go to a second store to get anything else. So I was reading labels when I was there, and again, like moving away from the eat up stuff and like fast food things, and literally without making this a joke, no joke, no lie, I quit eating McDonald's junior year of college. I was like, nope, not doing this, not gonna eat McDonald's. I will go through their drive through every now and then to get like a Coke, so I'm allowed to have like one actual Coke with sugar in it a month. That's just a rule that I have for myself. Kind of gives me something to look forward to. But other than that, like I don't really eat McDonald's. I'll go there for that and their iced tea. I really like their iced tea. But I don't eat McDonald's because it's just not good for you and it's not gonna fuel my body properly. It's gonna make me slow down and feel tired. But really, I would say I know I'm jumping around a lot, but during this whole time, still like I was aware of what I was putting in my body. It's just I wasn't focused on the right things. So I was always cognizant of, yeah, I need to eat fruits, vegetables, and stuff like that. But I wasn't thinking about the fats. I wasn't really thinking about carbs. It was mostly just calories. That's when I made the switch from, like I said, the whole foods over processed and packaged stuff. So I feel like everybody that goes to college at some point or another either eats a lot of pizza, um, a lot of ramen noodles, a lot of mac and cheese, just a lot of takeout stuff in general because you are up so often studying. So I definitely moved away from that in my last year of college and then even into my master's program, which I'll shift now because we only have about 9 more minutes left. And no worries if you missed this session. I see sadly there's nobody on this session. But that's okay. We're gonna keep doing this. Hopefully more people will show up next week. But yeah, in my master's program, I was still cooking for myself, and that I think I would say is the tipping point of where I combined everything together. So not only the movement, the powerlifting, the walking, the like steps in walking, so step count, cardio, meal prepping. This is when it was the full package deal for me. And this is obviously still before Form Check Plus, and Form Check Plus cannot track your nutrition. I think there's a lot of other very good apps for that. So I didn't add nutrition in there, but it does have hydration. So during my master's program, I was living 25 minutes away from my school, same school that I went to law school with. So I would basically have to meal prep once a week, still like I do now, and like I did when I started in high school and then took food with me during the day. For lunch, I also took snacks. So my snacks would be like fruit or almonds or some kind of nuts, protein bars, muscle milks, protein shakes, like whatever I was using as a protein shake at that point, powder wise. I think a lot of the Ghost stuff is when I started then. I kind of moved away from Ghost only because I don't think they have their Chips Ahoy and all of that anymore. So now I just use Diamondized ISO 100. I like the chocolate peanut butter, but I also like their Fruity Pebbles as well and their Cocoa Pebbles. Those are like my top three for them. But I would say that anything with them is pretty good. So I would do that. And then, so yeah, like Sundays, like today would be my meal prep day. I would prep like chicken, same thing I do now, beef. Rice was my basic go-to meals, I would say. I still, at that point, I don't really do it that much anymore because it kind of just like stinks my apartment out and I don't want to smell like it. But I would make a lot of peppers and onions and fold the chicken in that and put it over rice because again, signature dish that my mom made. But at this point, I kind of moved away from the pastas and just kind of ate stuff like that. So a lot of rice. That's when I got into my oats in the morning too. I used to eat oatmeal when I was younger, but it was the Quaker oat one packaged things that had a lot of sugar in it. And I used to eat that a lot for breakfast before school, like when I was younger, and like just toast or something like that. So I'll still eat toast every now and then, with avocado on it and an egg or something and some lettuce and a tomato. But that's when I really got into weighing out my food because I was still watching a lot of the bodybuilders and I was like, well, if I want to be more intentional with this and I want to take myself to the next level, I'm going to start weighing out my food. So it was a lot of trial and error with that too. I would just kind of weigh something out, jot it down, like however much I ate, and then see how that made me feel. So if I felt like I was still burning out of energy, then I would just add a little bit more and then keep track of that, see where those numbers were. And then I got my Fitness Pal and started adding everything into there as well. So it was, yeah, just trial and error basically, especially with like chicken and rice and stuff like that. More so the carbs, I would say, than the chicken and like the beef. But I was weighing everything out and I found, for me at least, like the happy medium was like 3.5 to 4 ounces of chicken and or beef per meal. Pretty much on like training days, I would say a little bit more carb heavy. So for like a lunch meal that has chicken or beef in it, I would say probably closer to like 120 to 130 or even 135 grams of rice. And then on a rest day, I don't need as much. So it would be probably like anywhere honestly between like 70 to like 110 to 115 grams. So if I'm like cutting or trying to lose a bit more weight, I would probably say 70 to 95 grams per meal of rice. And then for just like maintenance, it's gonna be like 100 to 115 on rest days. Did the same thing with like sweet potatoes. I would weigh that out again, like trial and error. I think probably my sweet spot with that is like maybe 50 grams or like half a sweet potato is what I'm doing now. So like not the whole thing, so it's not too much, but not too little either. And now I'm basically eating like maintenance for the time being, and then like kind of every couple weeks I'll push my numbers down total macro wise, so like calories, carbs, fats, whatever, just to give myself like a little mini cut here and there. I would say, yeah, during like after college, in between that period of moving from college to my master's and then into my JD program is when I made the switch to actually weighing out my food. And if I could go back and do everything all again and stuff, anything that like I wish I knew was to eat more carbs because like I said, I've noticed the times when I eat a couple more potatoes, a few more grams of rice, a little bit more grams of oatmeal in the morning, throw a piece of toast or two in there with like eggs or something in the morning. And then maybe like a protein bar throughout the day or even an extra protein shake. For me, at least, it makes the difference. The biggest thing I will say is don't follow someone else's meal plan. Try to figure out what works best for you because, as I like to say all the time, fitness and health are not a one size fits all. What works for someone else isn't necessarily going to work for you, and vice versa. So sometimes I'll say, like, give this a shot if you want to, like, do a bigger triceps or, like, you want to see your triceps blow up or something. Sure, like, that might be generally a good tricep builder, but you have to try it out and see if it works for yourself because if it worked for me, that's great, but it does no good if it's not going to work for you. So I kind of just like throw ideas out there and give people like what works for me, but it doesn't necessarily mean like take what I'm doing and follow it to a T. Like take what you need and then leave the rest on the table, kind of a deal. But yeah, for me, I would say really like honing in and tracking everything. So especially like not even so much like the food, just the water. Like I was trying at that point when I was with Savannah to drink more water, and I always carried a jug. That isn't one thing I will say too. I used to carry a jug, like a gallon jug that you would get milk out of in the grocery store. I would get a gallon I can't even speak, a gallon jug of Poland Spring and carry it around with me and fill that up with water and make sure I was drinking a gallon of water each day. I still do that to this day, but I don't carry my gallon jug. I mostly just have like a reusable water bottle or one of those huge like Gatorade bottles that have like the handle on it. I don't have a picture of it obviously because it's just voice, but I do have it here with me. to take to the gym when I want to drink like way more water than I'm used to. And also just because like if I take a shaker or something to the gym, I always have to fill it up a bunch of times. So I got that too. So yeah, I really started to hone in on all of my macros, macro tracking, what I was putting in my body as far as like carb sources, and then also like weighing it out and keeping track of it in my fitness pal. And if that's what I was going to recommend to somebody now who's just starting, I would say the sooner the better that you can keep track of your steps, your workouts, your yoga sessions or flexibility, any sports drills or sport activity that you're doing. Make sure you keep track of your water intake, and then also find out what macros fit you best. So carbs, calories, fats, proteins. Make sure you're getting your fiber in as well. Don't skip your fruits and vegetables. A goal I always have for myself is every morning for breakfast I have to have fruit. That's a must. That's a daily to do for me. Have to have fruit and have to have vegetables at least once or twice a day, but always fruit for breakfast and always a vegetable with dinner, if not at lunch as well. And then I'm going to say like the obvious stuff, like read your labels, because sometimes things will have protein in them, but just because they're high in protein doesn't mean it's good for you as a whole. Those things that are high in protein, like some of the bars and stuff like that, or even like granolas and things, will be high in sugar or high in carbs or fat, or even have a lot of calories. That goes for like a lot of smoothies that you find out there too. Like the Smoothie King is supposed to be good for you, but if you actually take a look at it, some of those smoothies have like 700 calories, a bunch of fat, a bunch of carbs. If you're gonna do that, you might as well go get a milkshake at McDonald's or something like that. So yeah, biggest takeaway here, keep track of all that stuff. Trial and error, see what works for you for carb sources and see what doesn't. Potatoes sometimes give me a little bit more energy than rice does, same with sweet potatoes. Whereas something like rice is a little bit lighter and it's kind of easier for me to digest. And then oats as well, they keep me full throughout the morning. So I keep track of that stuff. But also goes for like the amount of vegetables you eat, the amount of fruit, and also the amount of main protein sources, whether it's going to be fish for you or chicken or beef or something else. So read your labels. Don't hate on the carbs. They're necessary for your performance. Keep track of your movement and your hydration. Track everything. Put it in MyFitnessPal if you have MyFitnessPal or something else that you use to track food. Get a little food scale off Amazon so you know what's actually going into your body. And then just don't be afraid to mix it up every now and then. If for some reason something, you feel tired of eating potatoes, maybe try sweet potatoes. There's a lot of different things you can do like that to switch it up so it's not so so taxing to get the same meal down all the time. But those are the things that I kind of learned along the way. So hopefully it helps somebody out. And I hope to see someone on here next time. A little sad that I'm talking to nobody, but that's okay. I'm gonna keep doing these because somebody out there hopefully will, use them for themselves, or maybe they can learn something from it or connect with me in some way, shape, or form. So I'll see you guys all next week, but that concludes this week's Discord live stream. Take care, everybody.